We've got to talk about Manchester United. Happy Matthijs De Ligt Day, as Manchester United are supposedly going to complete the medicals and announce the assigning soon of Matthijs De Ligt and Mazraoui for a whopping 60 million euros upfront combined for both players, which I think is a sensational piece of business. And in today's video, I'm going to talk just a little bit about what I think of these signings individually and just what I think it means for Manchester United's season going forward. We'll start by taking a look at Matthijs De Ligt, because obviously what he's most known for is his ball-playing abilities as a defender. And I pulled up some of his numbers from FBref, which I think are very, very encouraging. This is the only thing about Matthijs De Ligt's game that is really exciting and makes me feel really good, because it's something that Manchester United have needed for a very long time. We've needed a ball-playing centre-back who can help us play out from the back, can help offer more security, especially when we're getting pressed high up by teams, and allow us to play through those high-pressing teams, which we've seen many times last season and the season before. Manchester United completely and utterly get dominated by high-pressing teams and forced to play long and forced to be very direct. And Matthijs De Ligt kind of helps us solve that problem, so it's not just Lisandro Martinez and Andre Onana having to bear the weight of trying to play out from the back. They actually have somebody now who offers a bit more technical security, in addition to Diego Dalot and Mazraoui, who we'll talk about a little bit later in the video. So that's a huge plus for Matthijs De Ligt, in addition to his technical ability and his ability to play progressive passes, line-breaking passes, and just be secure on the ball and know how to recycle possession. He's also somebody who I think will bring a steady head and a sense of calm, a sense of poise and leadership to this Manchester United defense, which is much needed. I think it's another thing when I look at Manchester United's defense with the likes of Johnny Evans, with the likes of Harry Maguire, with the likes of Victor Lindelof, even to a certain extent. There's lots of times where I watch those three individuals, whether they're playing with each other or if they're playing next to Lisandro Martinez, and I don't feel confident. I feel bad for including Johnny Evans in that list because he actually did have a good season last season, but I think most of that is down to how bad the team was. He was just the best of a bad bunch, number one. And number two, he's coming towards the end of his career, right? So I'm not confident with Johnny Evans playing for Manchester United week in, week out in 2024 going into 2025. Like, I'm just not. And if that offends you, oh well, I'm not sorry. Anyways, those centre-backs don't fill me with confidence, and Matthijs De Ligt would be a signing that would bring a sense of security and confidence. I don't think he's this world-class defender who's going to solve all our issues overnight, but I do think he makes us a much better team technically and in terms of progressing the ball out from the back and just being comfortable and helping with the possession-based playstyle that it seems like Manchester United are trying to implement. I think if Matthijs De Ligt played in the Community Shield instead of Johnny Evans in that back four, we would have seen a much better, more fluid Manchester United in build-up. And I honestly believe De Ligt will help us in that regard. Now, to be fair, there are concerns around Matthijs De Ligt. I think the biggest concern is just whether or not he'll be able to deal with the weight of expectations. I think the benefit of him joining United compared to the other clubs that he joined in the past is, one, that we are in a massive rebuild and we are at the beginning of something new. And two, we haven't really signed him for big money, because one of the conversations around De Ligt when he joined Juve from Ajax all those years ago and then Bayern later on in his career was that he's this big money signing who's on the cusp of becoming world-class. Once upon a time was one of the hottest prospects coming out of Ajax in that central defensive position. He was expected to be this great player, and he just never lived up to the hype, partially because of those price tags and partially because of his own limitations and ability, right? And so there was always that concern. I don't think that concern exists too much in this current context, in this current situation, because I think this is just a fresh start for him and it's something new. And I pray that Manchester United fans don't put too much pressure on this guy and make it seem like he's this world-class player who's going to solve all of our issues overnight, because he's not. He just isn't. I genuinely don't think that. I think he's going to be a good signing, and I think he's going to be a good addition to the defense, and he's going to raise Manchester United's technical ability, and he's also going to be a really good, solid defender who offers a great deal of leadership qualities, but he's not going to be this world-class player who is just the best we've ever seen. You know, I've even seen some posts from Manchester United fans trying to rank Matthijs De Ligt and Lisandro Martinez against other partnerships in the Premier League, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? They haven't even played a minute of preseason football together, and we're already comparing them with the likes of Saliba and Gabriel. Like, slow down, just take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and relax. There's no need to put so much pressure on a new signing. But moving on, let's talk about Mazraoui, the other signing that Manchester United are making. And of the two signings, he's definitely the more high-risk signing, because I think you look at his numbers there on FBref, these are his passing numbers, which I think is by far and beyond the best part of his game and why we're signing him, right? You look at his progressive passes, he's sitting in the 96th percentile, which is really good by comparison with other players in his position across Europe at the moment, across the top 5 leagues in Europe, pardon me, not Europe in its entirety. He's really good on the ball. Technically, he'll be a really good addition as far as progressing the ball out from the back for Manchester United. But defensively, he's going to be a massive, massive liability. I would even go as far as to say he's probably worse than Diego De Ligt. And that's based off a very small sample space because I've only really watched Bayern in the Champions League and he hasn't really appeared in the Champions League at all. In fact, I think he has one Champions League appearance last season and he played most of his games in the Bundesliga. So it is a concern. It is a big, big concern. His defensive ability is just not there. He's got no outstanding strengths, I would say, as far as he's defending, and a lot of weaknesses, a lot of holes. But for me, I'm willing to overlook those weaknesses if his offensive contributions are as good as the numbers suggest. Same reason why I back Diego De Ligt and why I prefer Diego De Ligt over someone like Wan-Bissaka. And I'm actually happy to see Wan-Bissaka leave Manchester United because personally, how my team plays in possession and how my team is able to progress the ball up the field is far more important than the defensive ability of one individual. I think that if Manchester United defend well from the front, meaning our front 6, our midfield 3, our front 3, and the other defenders, so the 2 centre-backs and the fullback on the opposite flank, if they are defensively capable, then having one weak right back defensively doesn't really matter. And the best piece of evidence I can give for this is Liverpool, because they are the only team that's taken a title off of Pep, right? Klopp is the only manager who's taken a title off of Pep Guardiola, and he did it with a right back who, according to many people, apparently can't defend in Trent, which is obviously an over-exaggeration and a lie, but he's not as good as other right backs in the league, right? I'll give people that. But still, Liverpool persisted with him because what he offered going forward for Liverpool is far more important in their system and for their team. And I think that will be the same. The same will be true for Manchester United going forward. I think what Diego De Ligt offers going forward and in terms of his technical ability is going to be far more important and it's going to outweigh his defensive deficiencies. And I hope the same will be true of Mazraoui. Now, one thing De Ligt is really good at as well is that tactically he's very aware, spatially he's very aware of where he should be and following the manager's instructions and making sure that he's doing his job within the system. He's also really good at underlapping, overlapping. He's very, very diverse in terms of his skill sets, both mentally and technically. I'm not quite sure where Mazraoui is on that scale. We know that he's a good technical player, but is his decision-making good? Is his underlapping good? Does he know when to mix it up and overlap and go hug the touchline versus when to cut inside and offer a run? Does he know where everybody's going to be on the pitch? And is he going to have good chemistry with the rest of the team? Only time will tell. That's my only sort of concern, that and his defensive weaknesses with Mazraoui. With that said, I think it's time to wrap up the video. I think the biggest positive of both of these signings is the fact that we are collectively getting 2 players who I think will be very useful for Manchester United for a combined fee of 60 million euros, which is excellent. I think if we had spent 80 million euros as an example on Matthijs De Ligt and maybe 50 million on Mazraoui as an example, I would have a lot of anxiety about these signings and I would be scratching my head and questioning why we've signed these players, because spending large amounts of money on players, especially in this day and age, impacts your ability to spend and correct those mistakes in the future if they turn out bad. And this is the thing that a lot of Manchester United fans will say, well, why do you care? It's not your money. Of course, it's not my money, but it impacts the way my football club is able to operate in the future. That's common sense. It shouldn't be hard to explain to an adult who watches football that if you spend ridiculous amounts of money on players who aren't good enough and then you put them on high wages, it's going to be very difficult to sell them and gain any sort of resale value back. And that's been one of Manchester United's biggest issues in the last decade. And we're finally correcting that because Matthijs De Ligt at 45 million euros and Mazraoui, especially Mazraoui at 15 million euros, there's no downside. If he flops, he flops. On to the next one. Sell him, move him on, and sign a new player. It's as easy as you like. Not so much with some of the signings we made under the Glazers, which, by the way, are still here. We've got Anthony for 80 million euros on high wages. We've got the likes of Højlund, who I like him. I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong, but there's no guarantee. And he got signed for a pretty high fee, and I'm sure he's on relatively high wages for a player around his age because that signing was made before Ineos got here. right? You've got a lot of players at Manchester United. Maguire, McTominay, so many players who either were in the academy and are now on high wages, or players who we signed. And we can't get rid of them. We are still stuck with the legacy problems of the Glazers. And these signings are a sign of better days to come on the horizon. I cannot make that clearer enough. So anyways, I hope they do succeed. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like if you want to support the channel. Subscribe if you are new. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for taking time out of it to watch this video. It's been your boy Triple M. Peace.